All right, guys, we're back. Right now, I'm back with Kevin Greene and Tyrone Russell of the Cleveland School of Cannabis. Now, last time I talked to Kevin Greene was a little over a year ago, 13 months ago, and it was a pretty good conversation. I wanted to get back in touch with them, rather. Sorry, I'm jumbling my words already. Get back in touch with them and see how things are going, how they've navigated kind of their school, in the craziness of COVID, and just how they're doing in general. So before I do that, I'm going to let you guys kind of introduce yourselves, your current titles, and sort of what your involvement is, and then give me a brief overview again of Cleveland School of Cannabis.
Kev, you want me to start, Kev?
Yeah, you can start, Ty.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm Tyrone Russell. I'm the president of Cleveland School of Cannabis. I've been with the school since essentially the beginning. I'm not in this role. I actually took the presidency over last year, July 2019. So it's been a nice full year of being the president of the school. And, in the first year, you have to deal with COVID and kind of lead that charge, as well as some other adjustments we were making along the way, such as our online learning platform and some of that expansion. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm originally from San Diego, California, and my background is heavily was involved in the higher education world, working for schools like Lehigh University, Colgate University, as well as Shippensburg University and some community colleges along the way. So the background has always been in education. I'm a sociology guy, the major that everyone laughs at, but the one that matters when the world is in chaos. So it's good to be here, and I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my name is Kevin Greene, the vice president of CSC. As Tyrone, we got to Cleveland and CSC at the same time, about 2 months after the first day they got into the original campus, start getting these things going. My background as well is in marketing, business development, public relations, and branding. So it has definitely been, quite exciting time. At the end of the day, still learning so many new skill sets to navigate this industry. So different in the sense of what you're able to do. And it's really been a joy not only to challenge myself and our team in the sense of how we, how do you grow a business like this when it's still in the middle of prohibition? And at the same time, how do you go ahead and provide the resources to the general public so they could take advantage of, one of the largest and fastest growing industries, that's in the United States, truthfully, globally as well. So it's been quite the journey, quite exciting. It's been great to take my skill sets, take Tyrone's skill sets, as we always do, attacking things from both ends and then through the middle, and really being able to create something great, impactful, and really make a not only an impact on our staff and our students, but a real impact on Ohio.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I guess my first question, and I'll kind of get into COVID later, but I feel like everyone probably asks you how you're doing over COVID. But I'm more curious, what is the current status of prohibition in Ohio, and is it different from Cleveland and Columbus? I guess because how is that still in play, and how has that been affected?
Yeah, so when you think about prohibition, right, there's so many different layers to this thing. So the first layer that we talk, that most people are focused on is at the federal level. So regardless of what states have done, cannabis is still a Schedule I substance, meaning that it's deemed to have no medical properties, which is a medical use, right? So our Schedule II drugs like amphetamines and things of that sort that you find in a lot of prescription drugs. It's the leading cause of our opioid crisis that we're currently going through right now from the prescription drug, culture that's been going on for the last 2 decades. They are Schedule II drugs. Cannabis is not. So understanding that, that's the first level. Then when you get to a state level, and we'll specifically talk about Ohio, decriminalization is inconsistent. So you have state laws and then you have local city laws, et cetera, that all have different ordinances on how they are handling the possession of small amounts of cannabis. So when you think about all those different things, you could just be driving from Cleveland to Columbus, which are two cities that are completely decriminalized in the sense of, I think Cleveland's up to 200 ounces of cannabis you can have on you, and to just leave, with a misdemeanor or ticket, all the way to those counties and towns in between that are also not at that level as well. So, so when you think about prohibition, one thing is it's inconsistent with the laws and what's going on state, local, federal. So, it's not the easiest space to navigate. And what that also does is it continues to create these silos of misinformation or de-information about the cannabis industry, right? Because if in your town it's not decriminalized, but in the next town it is decriminalized, and people are saying, hey, marijuana is legal medically, it's kind of like, what is it? What's really going on? So it drives a lot of inconsistencies, which makes it very hard for businesses to navigate, right? Because everybody is basically utilizing a different maybe chapter in the book to figure out how they make their decisions.
Right. And I guess, so obviously you can go to dispensaries in Ohio with a medical license. And so I guess that also blurs the lines for me. And how do you, I guess, how do you guys overcome that? Like what are you guys teaching in school about, like, I guess, working around the rules, or is it just an ever flowing change, ever in flux, notion of like, hey, listen, these are the rules now, but next month it might be different. You got to just constantly be vigilant.
Yeah, so part of that process, man, is making sure, we keep our education up to date, right? So we just recently made law and policy a course that all of our students have to take. So you can't, leave Cleveland School of Cannabis without having a firm idea about the laws and policies surrounding the marijuana market, right? Because it's like, as Kev said, it's one thing to understand them on the state level, but then it's a totally different thing to understand what's going on a national and a federal level. So we tried to keep our students up to date with all of the new laws and the changes, so that they're well equipped with information that they can throw out at people, or that they can even give to law enforcement who may say, hey, we really don't know much about this, and our students are able to educate. So we take that part really seriously, because the cannabis industry is probably the most heavily regulated market that we have to date. So it's critical that anyone who comes to our doors leaves with that information as they walk into the streets, because without it, you can be broken down by anyone, right? You don't want to be caught with your pants down in this industry for several reasons, because if you do, there's a chance that you won't be able to work in the industry. So us trying to develop the next workforce, we got to make sure our folks are prepared and equipped with all of the information possible when walking into the streets.
And do you find that police are typically undereducated as far as what the current status of cannabis legality is?
I don't think they're undereducated about legality, right? I don't think that's the case. I think there always can be more education about what cannabis can be used for and the benefits of cannabis, right? Because no fault to the officers, but if you've gone through the academy, and if you've been, from the school of cannabis is the devil, right? And you may have seen what the illegal side of cannabis has done to communities, and even for your job, you begin to have this negative thought about what it can do and what it's used for. So again, no fault to the folks who've experienced that and grew up through that time. But right now there's an evolution, and there's some education that can always happen to help them kind of understand more why, governments will be now beginning to legalize the plant. So I don't think officers have, any loss of understanding of what the law is when it comes to enforcing it. But as the laws begin to change, that doesn't necessarily stop the beliefs that you had about it, leading up to that point. So that's going to take a little bit more time to give some of those officers that idea of the cannabis is used for this. Yeah. It's not as dangerous as they made it seem before.
For sure. And I know plenty of police that also partake. So
right.
I think that it's a generational thing too.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that as time moves on, that'll become less and less of an issue.
Yeah, agreed.
So you mentioned workforce. I guess where do you expect the jobs for cannabis to start showing up in general, but then also specifically to Ohio?
That's the thing about this whole thing, right? I think so many people don't have an understanding that the jobs are here and they're showing up every single day. So, when we're, as an organization, in an educational institution, right, we're about 60% in the sense of job placement rates, right? We've graduated over 200 students. So that's meaning CSC has implanted over 120 students in the field that are working right now, right in the state of Ohio, that are in the cannabis field. So the jobs are here. That's the main thing when you're coming out of the state of prohibition and you're in the first round of the medical market, especially in the sense of Ohio. In the sense of the laws, a very conservative state from the mindset of cannabis, but also very regulated. I think, and I'm pretty confident in saying this, Ohio is the most regulated cannabis market. So with that being said, there's still a lot less of education, understanding that there's a pretty decent sized market here, and the numbers are already out. I don't have the direct ones, but I'll make sure I send that over to you, Mike. Some of the tax revenue that's come out of the first year of the full industry. That's been generated by the cannabis industry in itself. So when we're talking about jobs, we're talking about cultivation jobs, growing THC cannabis. We're talking about processing jobs. That's where all the edibles and all the other exposure methods are met, topicals, sublinguals, vapors, all that. That's made in the processing plants. Some states call it manufacturing, but that's the processing facility for extracting. Then you have obviously the dispensaries, which is what most people want to see and look at to say that the cannabis industry here is that, and that's the last step of the cannabis industry that's available. Now when we start to think about the hemp market, hemp is 100% legal in the United States federally, right? And the Farm Bill, and it's under the USDA Farm Bill. So understanding that, we are now starting to see those jobs popping up, where there's over 200 hemp licenses that were awarded in the first year, which started this year, January, when people started to apply for licenses. So now we've been getting calls literally every week from hemp licenses looking for now employees, internship programs, hands-on relationships that we've always done with the THC side of it. Now that's coming. So Ohio has a great cannabis market that is only literally about a year and 6 months old. In the sense of when we first put plants in the ground at October of 2018, the first dispensary sold its cannabis January of 2019. So think about where we are now at the end of 2020. We're going on, this second year of the full industry feeling going. And when I say the first dispensary, in the first 3 months, there was only about 2 to 3 dispensaries open in the entire state. So, all the licenses in the THC side of it that have been awarded in the first level of licenses in the medical market, all of them are not even open yet. So every dispensary, every processor, cultivation is not even at full tilt. So when we say about the job market is just getting started, and we're just in the medical side. Once Ohio goes recreational, that's just going to open up not only more jobs that are, say, directly associated with the cannabis industry, but it's also going to expand the ancillary businesses that are here now. So bag company, fertilizing company. When you go rec, you're going to have more delivery services, more personal experiences and entertainment experiences with cannabis. I basically say anything that has an experience with alcohol, you can sub cannabis in there and have that same experience. So, that's where we're going. We're at the early stages of that. So, if you're thinking about getting into the cannabis industry, and that's not just about your directly, being a cultivator, that's saying, hey, I have a skill set in marketing and accounting, and the cannabis industry, trust me, they need marketers, they need sales, they need managers, they need accounting, they need lawyers. You know what I mean? They need everything because it's an industry. It's not just about growing cannabis or dispensing it. It's about growing an entire industry. So, there's so many opportunities that are coming. The best thing you can do is to start to position yourself. And, there's no better step first, and truthfully, education, because how could you take advantage of opportunities if you don't truthfully know what those opportunities look like? And without education, how could you be possibly properly prepared for opportunities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. For the record, Ohio set a record in July, with $21 million in sales. So if that tells you, the jobs that will be coming to this state, that should give you an insight that an industry that brings in 21 million, at a time right now in 1 month, and it's setting records. It starts to give people an understanding that, this can be beneficial for us. We're looking at about, anywhere between 2,500 to 4,000 jobs in Ohio, depending on how you label it, right? So if we're looking at 2,500, those are usually the jobs that are directly, involved with the marijuana market. And then you look at, another 2,000 or so jobs that are ancillary businesses, as Kev put it. So people who are working in marijuana, but that's not their sole focus. So if you just look at that, in a market that isn't even fully operational yet, you can only imagine the percentage points that are jumping. If you compare it on a national level, they were anticipating about 270,000 jobs. But then when you add the ancillary businesses in there, you're looking at, about 330,000, 340,000 jobs. So you see the jump from the ability to be working with the plant or working in the dispensary, and other businesses that are working inside of the industry, but may not be necessarily labeled cannabis businesses themselves. So there's plenty of jobs coming as the industry continues to open up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a real firm believer that I think that the cannabis industry is going to be the biggest blossoming industry that we currently have on the horizon. I think way more than, I talked to a lot of guys in like AI and cybersecurity. A lot of those jobs are just morphed versions of computer science. This is something that's really going to, brand new businesses that are finally able to transact, move a lot. I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of people right now. And I don't think a lot of people in Ohio are talking about it.
Absolutely agree.
When you look at like California and Oregon, where I know that there's a lot of old school cannabis farms, and that area is kind of becoming less and less habitable due to the climate. Do you foresee a lot of that stuff coming our way, especially with our proximity to the Great Lakes?
Obviously the West Coast is going through, a climate issue right now, right? When we think about the Emerald Triangle, Northern California, and the issues that are going on there with fire, it's tough in the cannabis industry. In the last 4 years, have been just affected by the fires, over and over and over. What I will say, in the sense of where cannabis is now, right? Right now, you can't ship cannabis through state lines, right? So you got to grow the cannabis in your state that you're going to go ahead and actually sell and dispense in your state, right? It has to be homegrown out. Yeah, so that's how it is. There is, again, without federal laws, that's trafficking,
Yep.
So that's the situation there, right? So I don't know if you remember in the news when those hemp loads, were getting picked up and they thought they got El Chapo, and then find out the whole entire thing was hemp, because hemp is federally legal, so you can move it between state lines with no problems, right? So those are the little things that are going on within the industry that you're seeing. That's like, that doesn't really make sense, right? So those are the things that we're kind of overcoming. What's going to really happen on the East Coast is obviously the weather is different, right? Midwest, East Coast. When you think about the Midwest and things of that sort, our weather is different. So all this stuff is being cultivated inside. So we have a great opportunity to really take a look at the difference of how we're going to do that. Also understanding that the extract market is only getting more and more popular. Kids, our younger adults these days, they don't interact with cannabis in the sense of how the culture has been for the first, for thousands of years, which was all really about smoking. Now, extract, and you learned that in our class, people have been extracting cannabis oil out, oils and things outside of cannabis for a very long time in many, many different ways, right? But the mass majority of the way people consume cannabis was through combusting the flower, right? Mm-hmm. So as that continues to grow, that creates more opportunities when you think about the Midwest, the way that our weather patterns are set up on the East Coast, through the fact of being able to grow large amount of cannabis inside, and then being able to isolate cannabinoids, right? And that's what THC is. One of the many cannabinoids within the plant. CBD and THC are the most popular. You're going to start to hear about CBG, and things of that sort. When you're cooking and extracting it, you're doing a process from THCA to THC and back and forth, the chemical things that go through. So I believe that an area like Ohio in the Midwest is prime for the growth, right? The advancements of the industry, because we're not going to be subjected to say, well, we're not California or the West Coast where our weather patterns are more open for us to grow big outside all year round. We'll be able to do these things inside, because now we'll be able to extract so much, because the marketplace is saying this is what it wants more than flower. Flower is never going to go away. At the end of the day, we've already seen the uptick in the different ways people are interacting. Again, from the medical side, right? And the medical side is always going to be about, after you get past flower, it's all going to be about extracting the cannabinoids and pairing them and partnering with delivery systems to be able to get that into the body so you can heal and get the quality of life that you're looking for. So that even more conducive to indoor growing big and extracting and pushing through. So, with the geographical setup, as we continue to come out prohibition to be able to move within state lines, obviously we know that's why the Midwest is the manufacturing capital. And obviously, when we think about agriculture, we know the processes of logistics, agriculture, all this stuff. Ohio and the Midwest is primed to do this. They're built on this,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know we have many very large greenhouses, in Cleveland, and we have, or just even take that out. We have a lot of just large buildings that aren't being used right now in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
The IX Center just shut down. That would be a sick place to grow.
Yeah.
Ceilings are tall enough.
For sure.
Oh man, I didn't know that they shut down. Jeez.
Yeah, they announced that last week. So by the time this podcast is out, it'll be 2 weeks. But same deal. Yeah, so they're out, which is a shame for the Cleveland market. But whenever something goes away, there's an opportunity for something else.
Absolutely.
Perhaps if somebody can get a license to grow and they want to take the IX Center, that's an idea. So if somebody does want to grow in Ohio, or let's say let's say they just want to grow, just for simplicity's sake. Is it easy to get that license, or is that something that's just not on the table right now?
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, man. It's and the real reason is, man, and I really got to dig more into the Ohio process. Kevin may know a little more than me, but the reason is, when you go into the cannabis market, you're facing national and in some cases international competition. And the barriers of entry into the industry, again, is so highly regulated. And they have to make sure that, one aspect of it, of regulating it so heavily, is that the bottom doesn't fall out, because you have all these people interested, with some money here, not as much money here, who want to get into the game. And then after a year, they can't maintain and they go away. So the barrier of entry is really high in terms of what you have to have in your accounts, how long you have been in business, what you have in liquid and things like that. And a lot of folks just don't have that at their disposal and their discretion to get into it. So it's a pretty lengthy process. I mean, the license alone just to apply cost a pretty penny, right? And the 20-25 grand just to apply and have consideration. How many people in Ohio just have 25 grand to say, hey, I want to apply, and if I don't get it, it doesn't matter.
Not many that know me.
Right, that 25 grand is an investment. It's not to get me an opportunity. It's supposed to start working for me. So you look at things like that, and you understand why it's so difficult to get in the game for the little guy. So you're really battling international, national competition to get it. In fact, I think the largest company in the U.S. is Canadian owned, right? Huh. So you're battling that type of environment and that type of energy when you try to get into the cannabis market. And Ohio is no different than any other state who's getting this market up and running, right? They have to have some sustainability in the market in order to get it shaking.
What do you think the long-term effects are going to be on the illegal market? I guess the people that are selling and growing illegally and marketing that. Do you think that long-term they're still going to be there? Or do you think that I guess my fear is, and what my question really is do you think that that's going to go away, or do you think they're going to try to do things legally? Because my understanding is doing things legally is almost impossible for them to keep their business model the same.
It's expensive, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
So taking some examples from California, right, because of the recreational state and the just the way things are set up. If you have a cannabis brand, right, that you want to start, the main thing that you have to do is to be able to partner with a licensed organization, right? Which now gives you the ability to partner and create a product line. So if you've got, hey man, I've been underground growing this strain, it's been killing it, I know what it is, boom, all this stuff is lined up. You have a ability, to be able to kind of go ahead and move forward and start to actually do that, and get actually connected. Ty talking about the licenses, and one thing that we're stressing to people is that I know THC, man, it's the fun side, right? It's what's always been there. We cannot forget about hemp, because hemp is a lot, so it's $25,000 just to put your hat in when the licenses were open, and they're restricted just like liquor licenses. There's only going to be a certain amount of licenses awarded And that's only going to that can only be expanded when the board decides to expand that, right? So there's a lot of politics behind that. Hemp, at that situation, it's $3,000 to actually go ahead and actually get the license. Now you have to make sure that you meet all the other requirements that are needed to actually operate that business. But just thinking about that simple barrier to entry in the sense of the cost. So we really urge anyone that's a grower, don't forget about the hemp side of it. It doesn't seem to be, the prettiest girl at the dance right now. But as we start to revolutionize how we go ahead and use cannabis in our everyday life, from textiles and as the medical properties continue to grow, it's going to start to be kind of like that after last call. You know what I mean? That girl's going to start to look a lot different.
Right.
As we kind of go through this process, and we have to really, really remember that. And that's a big key, for what's really going to be going on in this industry. So, patience is a big part of this whole thing. You know what I mean? Patience is a big part. I know everybody is, upset. Home grow is not even here in Ohio yet. So patience is going to be a key. And at the same time, while you're being patient, you have to also start to figure out how you're going to position yourself, right? So being patient doesn't mean sit around and wait. Being patient means connect yourself, find resources, start to understand the industry, pay attention to the laws, start to really get an understanding of how you can possibly place yourself into the market. Look at other mature states. So look at what's happened in Oregon, in Cali, in Colorado, and start to say, well, this literally is a blueprint of how a state progresses. How do I position myself for that progression? Not be frustrated that you're not there yet. Understand that they've laid it out. They've already seen in practice how this looks like in the transition, and how do I prepare myself? So that's what I really tell to everybody that's in a position right now that might be in the black market, and how they can transition themselves to the legal market is start paying attention and start doing your homework and start understanding that there is literally a roadmap that's been put out in the West Coast that we can start to look at to position ourselves for what's going to happen. Because it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's proven itself. The industry, especially during COVID, the industry has grown throughout COVID. Even mature markets have grown and done record numbers through COVID. So that just shows you stability and growth is a part of this industry. And again, as Tyrone said, we're really just getting started in this process.
Yeah, I'm really excited about kind of where we can go, what it's going to look like. I think that we're going to look vastly different than California and Oregon. And I think that my last question really, which I think I can answer, is if you want to position yourself better, what would you do? But I'm assuming connecting with the Cleveland School of Cannabis would be a good first step. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
I was just going to say absolutely. That's one word.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we tell people is this, right? You have to be ready to take a chance on yourself, right? That's what it comes down to. When you're jumping into something new, when you're transitioning, the first thing is that conversation with yourself and say, hey, do I believe in myself and my work ethic enough to go ahead and see this through? Once you've done that, you start to go ahead and build the resources around you that's going to support your dream, right? That starts with the people that are around you in your life, your personal life, your business life, all that type of stuff. And then that also comes to the resources. What CSC is a resource that has proven itself and to be able to provide quality education and get someone that was 1 year ago sitting at home, looking up things on the internet, dreaming about being in the cannabis industry, but not ready, not going to leave Ohio. Came to our school because they took a chance on themselves to come out to an open house, connected with our staff, then took a chance on us to be a part of their journey, left with their state-approved certificate, worked in the industry for under a year, and now are leaving the state for the first time and running facilities in other states. And that's something I can directly go ahead and tag you and give you a student that happened to. He just moved 2 weeks ago. And that's happened to multiple students. So less than a year, they're leading facilities in new states moving forward. One of our graduates, Xavier Burrows, is now running a facility in Oklahoma, a new state that's just starting to really open up. And how is he doing that? It's because he took a chance on himself. He went out, he sought the resources that he needed. CSC was his option. And now we've been able to not only provide the education, but the resources, the connections, And now he's doing something that, again, a lot of other things never gave him the opportunity to do, and he left home for the first time. So under 30, now leading a facility in a new state, and his journey is just going to be awesome. And again, he's one of many that this process has happened to. And again, and that's why we will always understand and know that CSC is a great option. But again, that first conversation that you have with yourself is key to make sure that you're ready to commit to yourself and to this goal.
That's fantastic. And I really do believe in what you guys are doing. I believe in cannabis as an industry. I think that, the approach that you guys have had, at least through the year that I've known you, has always been very straightforward. I think, you guys have a good thing going. I appreciate you kind of giving me an update on where you guys are at with your journey. Obviously, if there's anything I can do, let me know. I'm going to put links to your website and some other promotional material that you might have, in the description or anything like that. If there's anything you guys want to plug on your way out, now's your chance.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think Kev wrapped it up excellent, man. I just think folks should take a chance, understand that this is a brand new industry, and you will never, ever, ever. If you missed the .com boom, early 2000s, and you're like, man, I should have did this. Here's your opportunity to do whatever it is you were saying you should have done back then in terms of taking the chance and taking that step. This industry isn't going to reverse course because of what it's doing for folks in the economy, what it's doing for jobs, what it's doing for health, and it's opening up more opportunities for people. So you do not want to miss that boat, man. I always tell people I didn't come into this game thinking, I wanted to learn all about cannabis. I just knew I loved education. And I found a way to layer cannabis on top of education and distribute that to people who are hungry for that type of information, man. So there are opportunities and zones and ways that you can get involved beyond just, learning how to grow or learning how to extract cannabis. There are opportunities.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you again. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day. I know you guys are busy, so I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
Great one. Yep.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.